my friends. My name's Linda Dolke and I'm a demonstrator with Stampin' Up! In Australia, and today we're going to be doing a video for you for the Global Video Hop. So every month this group gets together, we post a number of videos and you can link from one to another by following the hop. We have demonstrators from all around the world and we have some fantastic things to show you. This month our theme is travel. So I thought for this one, it was a bit tricky because I had to pick out a set that I like the best. This is something I'm going to show you that's new. I like some of the sentiments in here that say you're going places and, you know, far away but close at heart. I thought these kind of have a bit of a travel theme to them, and there's matching dies for this as well. These are last chance at the moment. And then there's also this one. This is a Weekend Adventures set, which has got things like taking the scenic route, things to do and places to see, and I thought that was really nice, a nice travel theme set as well. So I've decided to go with this and pair it together with the Scenic Adventure dies. Okay, now that's these guys. We've got mountains and trees, and some of you know that next year's Stampin' Up! Trip is to Alaska, so that's in my mind at the moment, and I'm thinking this set would be a really great way to go. So I've got some pieces here that I'm going to start with, and we're going to make ourselves a fun card. I've got a crumb cake card base. So this is metric. It's 21 centimeters by 14.8. If you're in the US and looking at US sizing, it would be 8.5 by 5.5 inches. And then I've got this piece here that's going to go on top. This piece is a piece of, this color is Secret Sea, which is one of our newest in color ranges, which is currently on sale at the time that I'm recording this. So anything with new in colors in it is currently on sale. So the cardstock is, the ink is, DSP that features these colors, anything that's got those colors in it is currently 15% off. So you might want to jump in and grab those. So this is going to be my base piece. And as you can see, it's going to go right here on top, okay, so that we have a little bit of a border all the way around. I'll come back to that. I'm going to set my crumb cake piece aside. Now this is going to be for the mountains. Now this piece you can see is 1/2 centimeter less wide, and that's by design. I'm actually going to be creating a mountain with this, and I'm going to put my mountain around about here. So I'm actually only going to use this part because it's going to cut the top off, and I'm going to run that through my cut and emboss machine. Actually, I might bring it down a little bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see it's cut off this top piece. I'll keep that aside. I'm not going to use it for this card, but I might use it for another one because I like the shape that it's created. All right, so now we've got our mountain, and we've kept this part down the bottom here. I'm also going to do, I'll put that back in that set so I don't, let me move things out of the way. Okay, and I'm going to have this row of trees. I actually really love this row of trees. I've got a piece of garden green because I really like garden green with this, and I'm going to put this through so that the trees are straight up and straight down, so, you know, vertical, and they are, the whole tree group is actually on an angle here, so I'm putting them up towards the top. This piece is, I think it's 5 centimeters long. Let me double check that. Oh, actually it's 6 centimeters long, 6 centimeters wide from here to here. And if you're wondering how much that is in inches, it's around about 2¼ inches. Okay, so I'm going to cut this top piece off, and once again, I shall be right back. Okay, so here we go. I've got this piece, and once again, it's just going to cut that top section off, and we've got the trees down here on the bottom, and just remove that and pop it back in my die set. Okay, so this is actually going to end up kind of about here, so it doesn't really matter, but I want them kind of at the base of the mountain, so it doesn't, you can kind of move this up and down depending on how far you would like it to be, and I can cut some off the bottom if I decide to later. But before I add that, I want to actually add some shading to my mountains to make them a little bit more realistic. So I can do I could do them with like some shades of brown, which would look nice. I've done that before, but I'm actually going to start, this time I thought I would use a couple of our in colors. I'm going to use Cloud Cover, which is like a light gray blue. Beautiful color this. And I'm going to, if you don't have one of these ink pads, Stampin' Up! Don't actually sell the ink pads because there was a problem with them. If you're a demonstrator, you would have been able to get them. And for those of you who are paying attention, you would be able to get them in the last chance list just while they're still available. But if you don't have access to an ink pad, then I would, you know, you get yourself an ink spot, because the ink refills are available and you can pop them in an ink spot so you have access to this color, because it is a beautiful color. All right, so I'm just doing, don't worry about this very blobby look to this at the moment, because I'm going to be putting more color on it. So we're starting with the lighter color and we're going to move up to a darker color. So I am actually going to, I notice it's taken a little nick out of the side there. Don't worry about that. It's not going to make any difference to our finished product. And I'm just going to, so now I've got that color. I just wanted to be able to see the top of it coming up towards the mountains. I'm not going all the way to the top because I want the mountains to look like they have snow on them. So that's what that is. Then I'm getting a darker blue blending brush. Well, they come not colored. The only reason they have color is because I've been using them with my ink pads. But once I use it for a particular color, I tend to use it for that color all the time after that. All right, so I'm starting down the bottom here and I'm working my way up, not going up quite as high this time as the cloud cover. So that way it all blends together. And again, it's going to give us a nice gradient going from dark to light. Right, that's looking good. All right, I'm liking how that's looking. That's looking nice. So when I put these trees in front, you can see we cover all the kind of blobby bits down the bottom, but it looks really nice. Like those mountains are starting to look like they're coming alive, and we've got snow on top. Okay, so it looks really, really good. All right, I'm not going to cut this bottom off yet because I want to see how far it's going to come up, but I am going to put this with some glue. You can use any glue you like. I'm a big fan of Tombow, but you can use any glue, doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to pop that over here. I could have also used Mossy Meadow, and you know, sometimes I think Mossy Meadow maybe would have been better, but I'm using Garden Green today, so I'll stick with it. But yeah, you can use whichever green suits you. Right, so let me move this while it's still wet. This is the advantage of liquid glue. You can straighten it up or manipulate it to be where you want it to be. Once it's dry, you can't though. Once it's dry, and you're done. All right, so that's looking really nice. Okay, so this is going to end up on my front piece like this. Okay, so my cloud's going to be kind of in the middle, and we've got like a night sky here. Now you can do different things to the night sky. You could cut a small circle, like a 1 or 1 1/4 inch circle, and pop that here in the sky and make it a moon. Or you could also, you know, use some speckled stamps to add some stars. You could splatter some white, or even some Winker Stella you can splatter in the sky and make it like a sparkly sky, which would look really, really nice. All right, so I'm liking how this is looking. Haven't decided where I want to put it yet, but I do also have this piece. This is a piece of wood. This is called wood textured 12 by 12. It's a specialty paper that we have, and you can see I've cut it to slightly smaller than my Secret Sea base here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to cut a window in this. All right, and for this I'm going to sneak peek use some new product. All right, this is a new set of dies called Branching Out. I absolutely love them. I think they're gorgeous, and they have all these lovely nested dies. All right, so I've got to decide how big do I want my window to be. So let's have a bit of a test. I don't want the biggest one, I don't think. I think that, well, I could use it, but I don't think I want that one because it's not going to give me very much of a window. So I think I want something a little smaller, either the next one or the next, maybe even 2 down. We'll see. Let's have a play and decide, decide which one is going to work best. All right, so this is not bad. And it would give me a little bit of a play with the wood grain around here. But let's try the next one down from that, because this one might give me, the next one down might give me a little bit more frame to work with. All right, so that's quite nice. And, oh yeah, I'm liking that better. Okay, so I'm going to center this in my, and put it through my die cutting machine. But before I do that, let's color it first, because it's actually easier to color while it's not, before it's cut, because then it's not as flimsy. And we do know we only need to go around the outside. So I've got a couple of brown toned blending brushes here. And I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is going to be crumb cake. And I'm going to ink that up, and I'm just going to kind of, you don't even need to be you don't need to be precise, and you don't need to add much color. All right, so I'm just adding some around the outside here. And if you go darker in some spots, lighter in some spots, doesn't matter, because if it's wood grain, that's what wood would be. Okay, wood wouldn't, or excuse me for saying this, wood wouldn't be all the same color. It would be different shades of brown. So we're going to have that too. All right, so the first one looks a bit rough, but don't worry, we're going to add more color. And like what happened before, as you add more color, it comes together. All right, so that's the crumb cake. Then actually I'm going to move up to pecan pie. I'm going to use the same one. So this is a bit darker and more of a golden tone to it. So it's got a bit of a different tone to the crumb cake. I'm being rough with it again, so that some of the crumb cake is going to show and some is not. And then the final color we're going to come in with will be our early espresso. Now I'm just going to test that I have actually made this big enough. Yes, I have. That's good. All right, so let's now, I've got a darker one here, and I'm going to use early espresso for that one. So early espresso is the darkest of the browns that we have. And I'm going to pick up a bit of that, and this time you'll notice a bit more of the coloring. And see how I'm just doing it here and there. And we can always come back in if you think it becomes too brown, too grey brown, then you could always come back in with some of the pecan and add some more of that, because I think that might be nice to add a little bit more of that over the top. All right, it's looking good though. So can you see how we've got some different tones here? I am going to grab a bit more pecan. I think that would be nice. So let's make it a little bit more goldeny with a bit of that. All right, so I'm liking how we've got some of the different brown tones coming through. That looks great. All right, now I'm ready to use my die, and we're going to position that so it's centered in the middle of this panel. Now, if you're wondering about the panel is, I need to tell you, 9.5 by 13.8. Okay, so it's one size down, half a centimeter on each side, smaller than my base piece. Can you see that? So it's 13.8 long and 9.5 centimeters wide. All right, I'm going to run that through with this die, and I'll be right back. Okay, so hopefully now when I pull that out, you can see we're left with this really nice looking wooden panel. I can use this for another card, and I probably will. And I'm going to end, this is going to go together. Now the reason I haven't put this on yet is I want to work out how high I want to have it inside. So if I put it here, you can see the bottom of this. All right, so that's too high. We need to move that down, and I could cut some of that white off if I want to. In fact, I think I probably will. So I'm actually going to cut a little bit off this. So you're kind of experimenting a little bit with the height of it, but I kind of like how that's looking. So let's see, let's position this. So if I put that down towards the bottom, and then I put my piece over the top here, yeah, that actually looks really, really good. Now, the only thing is this looks a little bit blank. That's okay, because that's where my my greeting is going to go. So I'm not worried about that right now, but that is, like I said, a little bit blank right now. All right, let's put this on with our Tombow or whatever glue you're using. Move that down here. We just want to make sure that we're going to cover up the edges with the frame so that you haven't got white bits poking out from behind. All right, now before I do this, I'm going to just give the sky a little bit of treatment. Like I said, you can do a small circle if you have a small circle punch or a die and actually add that, which would look nice. Or you can come in with one of our fabulous stamp sets, such as this one, which is a last chance one. This is called Elements of Text, and you've got like, there's quite a number of our sets that have got like splatter like this, and you can add splatter with a white ink pad. Just bear in mind that adding with a white ink pad, the white ink does soak in a little bit to this color. So if you wanted to make it more striking, you could do it with Versamark, like use an embossing buddy first, use it with Versamark, and then emboss it in white, okay, and that would look really great. But for today, I'm just going to use my white ink pad just so you can see what it looks like, and it's just going to, and it will soak in a little bit into the, but I don't mind the subtle look. So we're just creating a starry sky, just to have something interesting going on up here. Can you see how it's drying fairly quickly, but you can still see it? I'm just going to add a little bit down the bottom here. And the nice thing is if you do go onto the where the mountain is, it won't show up on the white there. All right. So even though you've got to kind of turn it to see, there is a bit of splatter going on in the sky, but if you want it to be more striking, you could certainly emboss it. Excuse me. All right, so now I'm going to put this over the top, and I like to do this with dimensionals. You can certainly, you can add as many dimensionals as you like, but I'm a big fan of lots of dimensionals for something like this because I don't want the edges of my frame to sag. So I'm going to put one in each corner, and then one on each side. If you are worried about these poking out, you could use mini dimensionals as well. I'm not worried. And I'm going to have one top and bottom. 1, 2. All right, so the sides are the narrowest part of this. And that's just because of the measurements that I've used. I'm just going to get rid of all these pieces. Okay, and that looks good. Right, I'm going to stand up so I can position this properly. Okay, so now we have a really lovely wooden frame. Now this could be a Father's Day card. If you wanted a Father's Day card, here in Australia, we're just about coming up to Father's Day, although I know that's not the same elsewhere in the world. But it is coming up to Father's Day here, and so you could find a Father's Day stamp such as the one in Trusty Tools, which has a Happy Father's Day, which would look really quite nice across the bottom here. Or you can actually, if you wanted to, you could stamp straight onto this green if you wanted. I don't know that I would, but because we have a travel theme today, I'm going to use one of the sets that I showed you earlier, and I'm thinking I'd like to do either things to do and places to see, or taking the scenic route, because they both to me say travel. So maybe taking the scenic route for this one would be nice. So this, I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to do it with Secret Sea ink. Let me just see. Which is the stamp I'm looking for. Oh, it's a little bigger than it is on the outside, so it's a little wider than I thought it was, but that's okay. Taking the scenic route, and I'm going to pop that onto a block, one of our longer blocks, such as block H, which is this one right here. And I'm going to pop that down, and I'm going to pick it up with my block. All right, so this is about just under 1 inch wide, so I'm going to, or 2.5 centimeters. So I'm actually going to make a panel that is about 2.5 centimeters wide, and that should be fine for that to sit on. And this is, we know the width of this from one side to the other is 10 centimeters for our Secret Sea piece, but I'm going to go 9.5, so it's the same width as the frame. So that's going to go right across here and cover the bottom of the frame, but I don't mind that. I think it looks quite nice. So let's do that in Secret C. Here we go. And let's do this one, which says taking the scenic route. I find for lining up something like this, I'm best to stand up. And I line up the bottom of the writing with the edge of the banner or the piece that I'm stamping on. Looks good. I'm also going to use a sponge dauber, or you could use one of your just your ink pads if you wanted to go around the outside. And I could use any of the colors that I've used here. So I could use the cloud cover if I want to go around the outside. That would look nice. I'm actually thinking crumb cake would look good for this. So I'm going to grab that. And I'm just going to, this is the cheap way of edging, and that's just to slide it along your ink pad. Quick and easy if you're looking for. And just be careful if you pick up any extra ink. So there's extra ink sitting there on the corner. I'm just going to wipe that off with my finger, but yeah, just be careful. And I don't mind a little bit of extra ink in some places. I think it makes it look a little bit more organic. Okay, so that looks good, and it's going to end up going right across the bottom here from one side to the other. So I'm just going to attach it on the sides, but in the middle, I'm going to put a couple of dimensionals to give it a bit of support so it doesn't sag in the middle there. So I'm going to pop a dimensional here and a dimensional here. Take the backs off. And then this here, I'm going to put some glue on either side so it doesn't flap around. Okay, so let me stand up again so I have that lined up. It's going from one side to the other. There we go. That looks kind of cool. All right, what are we thinking? Now remember at the start we had a piece of crumb cake, and I've just got that here. So I'm going to put this right here on my crumb cake piece, which makes it, if you put it on white, it looks a little bit stark in my opinion, but I think it makes it look quite, I don't know, outdoorsy by having it on the crumb cake base. So, you know, up to you, of course. You could choose a white base or a different color if you wanted to, or even maybe even the cloud cover. That would look nice. But I've chosen crumb cake on this occasion. Now, if you wanted to make this for a guy, like if this is a Father's Day or a guy card, you might want to add, you know, go around your banner and knot it with a little bit of linen thread. That would look fantastic. You can, of course, add bling. I am a big fan of any kind of bling, but one of my favorites is something that also is last chance, and that is our textured dots. I'll put the information for those up on the screen for you. Oh, here they are. This is them. They're called adhesive back textured dots. Can you see them? They've got this matte look to them. I rather like them. So give me a moment and I will use my take your pick tool and I will add them to my card. And because they're not sparkly or shiny, or, you know, they're good for guy cards as well as cards for anybody really. So I'm going to add one right about there, and then maybe a couple of little guys up here in the sky. Love these take your pick tools for applying these sorts of things. Just makes it so much easier than trying to do it with your fingers. All right, I'm happy with that. It looks really great. I hope you like it too. Don't forget to check out the next the next video in the hop. All the details of that will be below the YouTube video in the description. Thanks guys, have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.